Okay, so I'm Sam Moses. We're going to talk about physical security and its importance to cybersecurity. First off, who the hell am I? Heck am I? I'm being recorded. I should not. Anyways, I'm the Senior Security Analyst at BYU. I've graduated with a bachelor's and master's, both emphasizing in cybersecurity. I presented both internationally and nationally on multiple cybersecurity topics, including physical security policies and penetration testing physical security. If you guys have questions, I'll leave plenty. Okay, just so you guys are aware too, when I present, I'm going to make you guys engage, and I have no issue standing up here till someone responds. So, be ready for that. Okay. This is one of my favorite quotes. Paranoia is a skill, the secret to longevity. One of the main reasons I got into cybersecurity is because, generally speaking, I'm a little bit of a paranoid person. So I'm a little bit more aware of what's going on physically and going around. And I'm a little more concerned about security. Being security individuals, a little paranoia, it's fine. So, physical security. It used to be there was just guns, gates and guards, and that was physical security to people. And so at the top level, CSO, that's changed a lot now. So now they consider the 4 Gs. Anyone want to make a guess what the 4th G is?
Gizmos.
Gizmos? Nice, not bad, not bad. Yeah. Gadgets, okay, okay.
Geeks.
Geeks, yeah. Geeks is what it is. We are! Guys, we're the 4th one, the geeks. Accept it, it's who we are. So, we come in and we help a lot with the security in CSOs. Physical security wise and cybersecurity wise. And there is a marrying of those two things. So, with physical security, it generally gets split into 5 different topics. Deterrence, something that makes someone not want to go in. Delay of intruders, something that will actually slow down an intruder as they're trying to break in. Detection of intruders, something that will kind of alert you that someone is trying to break in. An assessment of the situation, something that will kind of be able to let you know what the current situation is going on. And response to intrusion and disruptions. So, can anyone here give me some ideas of what some different deterrence options? Yep.
Thing that says if you hack in here, we're going to sue you, or something like that.
Yeah, something like that. What other options? Think both cyber and physical.
Armed guards.
Armed guards, yeah. If you see an armed guard, that's going to be a deterrence.
Electrical fences.
Electrical fences. More specifically, the sign saying electrical fence is very much a deterrence.
Firewalls.
Firewalls, okay.
Razor wire?
So a firewall, describe to me what you mean by firewall.
Wall fire.
Okay. Is that really what you mean?
No.
I mean, I've played D&D, so.
Like having that extra piece you have to reach into to
Okay.
get into the other side.
Yeah, so hackers most often, and as I'm sure as you guys do more hacking different things, we generally speaking are a lazy people, meaning we will take the path of least resistance, which means, okay, there's this complicated buffer level exploit that I'm going to have to custom make and go in, or default creds. Which one are you probably going to actually use? Default creds, because it's real easy and you get in. So that's some of the deterrence options, some different things like that. Delay intruders. What's some options for that? Think both cyber and physical here.
Locked doors.
Locked doors. Yep. So that's going to slow down an intruder. I think I saw a hand over here. Nope. Okay. Yep. Man trap. Yep. Does everyone here know what a man trap is? Who wants to explain it?
Like a 2-door system?
Yeah. So you have like the 2 doors, and usually only one can open at a time. So like if you go in the first one, you can't open the second one until the first.
Yep, and one of the nice things about a man trap is it actually normally works with a detection of intruder. So if someone triggers it, like they're not supposed to be there when they're doing a bio thumbprint or something, both doors will lock on the person. So it's actually trapping them, which is where the term man trap comes from. So, awesome. What's some other stuff? Yeah.
Delay in login process.
Yeah, delay login process. So let's say someone's trying to brute force a login, and they get to 3 logins, and then they get a notice saying you can't log in for another 30 minutes. That's another form of delay and intruder. Any other ideas? Sweet. So what's ways to detect intruders? Make sure I'm actually following my list properly. Okay. Oh, hey, I actually thought I did all these at once, but I didn't. Yeah. Ta-da! There's options. Okay. Detection of intruders. Yeah. Motion sensors. Yep. Cameras. If they're like infrared cameras and stuff that trigger on heat and different things like motion, then yes.
Intrusion detection system.
Intrusion detection systems. Endpoint systems. Yeah, running antivirus and different things like that. That often will trigger on people too. Anyone else want to throw something in there? Yep.
Employee training to detect people.
Yeah, employee training is a big one. Oh my gosh. Employees are on the front lines and they're the ones that are going to be targeted. Okay, so I'm just going to have to get on a little bit of a soapbox here. I apologize. So, guys, we are not your typical users. When we see something and it's obviously phishing, that does not mean it's going to be obviously phishing for the majority of the other part of the population. Always keep this in mind. It'll make your training easier. It'll make when you're explaining to other users easier. It'll make it a lot because we've had a lot more training, a lot more experience, and a lot more, I don't know, beating it into our heads than other people have. And so be patient with the common user. It takes time. But yeah, users are extremely helpful. So often, like where I work, if a user comes across something that they think is a phishing email, we have an email that they can forward that to, and we can review it for them and see if it's actually a phishing email or not. And that's how we get detected to a lot of our phishing emails that get through our spam filters. So there's some different options. So external and internal sensors. I guess I was lazy on that one. I didn't actually put things. So assessing the situation. Any ideas? So how many guys here have actually worked as a security guard before? Okay. Did you ever have to write a report on something if you came across something? No? So often within assessment of situations, security guard's walking, he sees something suspicious, normally he has to report that, and that is assessing the situation. As an assessment situation on the cyber side, that's when you're starting to do your initial triage. You're looking into things. You're trying to assess the situation. You get an IDS alert saying, hey, it looks like someone's trying to brute force this area. Do you believe that IDS alert right away? No. Yes, you need to go verify. Hopefully you have more than one IDS alert actually going off too, so you can actually correlate multiple ones against each other. But you want to assess the situation. Part of assessing the situation when it comes to cybersecurity too is you need to be aware. Okay, what is the, what's the word? English, guys. I'm not that good at it. Blast radius, I'm going to use that term. Blast radius of an attack. So, okay, they breached this one system. It's got 3 logins, and it's got public information. Not that important. They breached a different system. It's got multiple usernames and passwords and maybe people's social security numbers. That's going to have a lot more effect on people. Also, blast radius, WannaCry. When it attacked out, it actually propagated like a worm across multiple different networks. So if you got one system with WannaCry, did you stop it in time, or are there potentially other systems got infected with WannaCry as well? There's a lot of different things like that that can affect different people. So that's some rough ideas on assessing the situation. Damage, security guard procedures. I wrote down the physical stuff because I'm assuming you guys are a little bit more experienced with the cyber side. Response to intrusions and disruptions. Ideas? Yeah, police. So, interesting thing. Security guards, generally speaking, actually aren't able to do that much, guys. Their job is to, when they see something, call the police. That's it. Now, be careful, because if you go to somewhere where they actually have armed guards, it's a very different story. But places, I shouldn't name names, places normally can only really call the police. They actually aren't even allowed to like tackle you or anything in a lot of places. And Utah is one of those states where that is the case. So what they can do is see you and actually just call. That's why they're deterrents. They don't really do that much. Yeah, they do some assessing of the situation and they have some procedures to do that and report on things. But they're more deterrents than anything. What's some ways to respond to intrusions and different things at the cyber side? Yep.
So, for example, if you have an incident response team, looking into situations that have happened, let's say someone's employee got compromised, actually mitigating it by taking the endpoint offline, making sure that's the only part, wiping the drive, or removing it, however you go.
Yeah, so basically he's talking about when an endpoint gets compromised and you go in, you isolate it from the system, you make sure it's wiped and bring it back up. You do a little bit of an assessment of how it actually got breached, phishing email, vulnerability on the system, what happened. That's kind of the response to intrusion and everything. And then on a bigger scale too, there's other options as well. So let's say that it looks like a system got infected, but you're not sure. Potentially you can block it at the border so you can still have internal access as you're actually trying to assess it. There's you can block it at the port level, you can block it at the switch level, so there's a limited internal network. There's a lot of different options depending on the situation and the need of access to that system. Because a lot of your decisions when you're making these type of things need to fall under the CIA triad. So what's the C in the CIA triad? Okay. What's the I in the CIA triad? Integrity. What's the A in the CIA triad? Yeah. So, wait, is it accessibility? I thought it was availability. Okay. Yeah. So, you want to make sure that, yes, when a system gets infected, most likely you're going to affect availability to that system. But you want to limit the effects of availability of that system as much as possible. And there's different ways to do that. There's also what I consider the fourth rung on the CIA triad. Does anyone want to take a guess on what it is? So it's usability. Because you can lock down a system, make it super secure, but if someone can't use it, you have not done your job well. So think about that on the physical security side. You can have an ultra safe room. You can have a box that is welded perfectly smooth all around. You can throw it around, you can beat it, you can do nothing. You can have $10,000 in there. Those $10,000 is useless. You cannot access it whatsoever. There's no usable access into it. That's not a good system. That's not a good defense. You need to make sure that the users actually can access the system, whether it's physical or cyber, to make sure that you're actually meeting your job as a security professional. Does that make sense? I'm seeing some nodding heads. Okay. Does anyone have any questions at this point? I'm not Italian, but I use my hands a lot. I'm sorry. Okay. Sweet. So, access controls. That's the cornerstone of securing, whether it's using access control of a username and password, or it's the access control like a gate. That is so useless. So more often we see technical attacks. I mean, consider the amount of announcements we see on the news and different things like that. We hear about phishing, we hear about viruses, we hear about hacking, we hear about all these breaches. Okay? That is the majority of attacks that happen. So why care about physical security?
Cybersecurity, or if you get through the cyber part, those go through the physical.
Yeah.
Like there was a saying I heard a while ago that said once you have physical access to the box, the fight for security is over.
Yeah. You own that machine once you have physical access to the box. There's literally basically nothing they can do. Now think about this. One of the reasons why we care about physical security too is these, generally speaking, take some technical aptitude, right? Physical security, how much technical aptitude do you need? If someone's really upset with your organization, they break in, how hard is it for them to take down your server? It's called a sledgehammer, people, or a cup of Coke. That's all it takes to take down these systems. They are fragile, annoying pieces of machinery. If you're in IT or cybersecurity and you haven't been frustrated and want to throw a machine across the room, you're doing something wrong. It should have happened at least once in your life. So, it's easy. It really requires no technical skill. That being said, there are techniques to improve your access to physical security, such as lockpicking, social engineering, which is one of my expertise and fun things to do, and stuff like that. Okay. Sweet. This is my slide with notes. Aha, story time. Okay. So, personal friend of mine, physical security was in scope. And they were able to walk in and actually had within scope. Does everyone here know what scope means when I mean scope? I'm seeing some nodding heads and yes and no. Okay, let me explain what scope is before I release you guys with these type of information. Okay, so when you are performing penetration testing or ethical hacking or whatever term you guys use for it, which you want to define the scope with the person you're doing the testing for. You want to have that written down and you want to have that signed by them as well. So the reason for this is you do not want to get screwed. I don't have a nicer way to say it. No, that's nice. Anyways. Okay, so because you can go in, you can breach someone's system, and they may have thought their system wasn't breachable. They're going to be a little bit upset the fact that you breached their system. You want documented evidence that said you had permission to try to breach that system and a signature from the owner of that system. Which means if you have a sysadmin that says, hey, I want you to try to breach the server, and that's, let's say it's a professor who actually runs that server, you do not have permission until you probably get signatures from both of those people, making sure they're both aware you're testing that system. Scope is the part that defines what you're allowed to do. So generally speaking, when I deal with penetration testing, I split it up into 5 different scopes. So there's physical, there's social engineering, there's the system, there's the network, and then there's web applications. And then if in special cases, there's actually a 6 Wi-Fi. So that's generally speaking the different areas of scope that are in. If you're doing a test and physical security isn't in scope, you don't get to do it. Doesn't matter if you want to. Doesn't matter at all. Sometimes they will limit specifically what you can do social engineering and physical security. With physical security, sometimes it'll be like, okay, you can test maybe the open conference rooms and the lobby, but we don't want you actually entering in any of the offices. Fine, that is what your limits are. You are not allowed to do anything else. Social engineering is another one where they often want to limit the scope. And so you can go and be like, okay, we don't really want you to fish our employees, but I guess you can fish maybe our interns. And so that is it. That means you can only fish the interns, and that is it. Now, it's funny because people don't realize how much access we normally give interns during that point of time, and that's where the fun begins. But that is roughly the idea of scope. Does that make sense now to people? Any questions? Okay, sweet. No one's screaming or anything, so I'm assuming you guys are getting it. Am I talking too fast? Can everyone hear me? You guys in the back good? Yeah? Okay, sweet. Okay, so friend of mine, he was doing a physical security engagement. Within scope, he actually had permission to take equipment, which is not actually common in physical security engagements. Normally, you either need to film or take pictures the fact you could. And he walked in, and then he walked out with a laptop and got tons of company confidential information from it. Okay? You guys get the scenario? Okay. What are some technical and some physical controls that can be put in place to help defend against this? Yep.
I think like employee awareness training is something to recognize and
Yeah. Nope, that's a very good one. We'll go here and then in the back.
Having one of those systems that locks the laptop into place so it can't walk away without a key from the owner.
Okay. Yeah. So you actually lock in the system so they can't take it away. Yep.
I should say like last resort encryption.
Yeah, encryption. If the laptop was encrypted and it was locked, that would have saved them. Yep. Control who comes in and out of the building. That is a big one. Two-factor authentication on the system. That's another big one. Camera. So he got caught on camera, but he already has the laptop. If you can't recognize the face or anything, that's not going to matter. But that is an important one if you can catch them to justify it and show it in court. Yep. Locks? Yeah. So a couple different ideas. One of the things is locking the laptop in place. That's definitely an awesome one. You can't take that away. I will warn you guys though, have any of you guys tried to pick those type of locks? I'm seeing a yes nod over here. How hard is it? It's not hard. So, but it's still going to be a deterrent because they have a lock on the system, and B, what's the other one? Deterrent, and then the one that slows down an intruder, but I'm blanking on the name. Delay, thank you. It's going to delay the intruder because they're going to have to take the time to actually pick that lock. And if someone walks by and someone's trying to pick the lock with lockpicks, generally speaking, that's going to raise some alarms in people's heads. So, encryption is a very good one. I mean, generally speaking, people, they're not going to walk out the laptop actually open if it's, they left it unlocked. They're going to shut it as they walk out. So if the laptop's encrypted, then they're going to have to figure out and crack the password to actually get in, which brings two-factor authentication is going to be another one that's going to help with that. And then locks on the door, making sure the secretary, or if you have security guard, actually requires them to come through. There's a bunch of these different options. And so when you're working with companies, you have to consider this. And this is where you balance the usability with the CIA triad and the cost and functions. What's the best way to do this? What technical controls, as a cybersecurity specialist, like encryption, two-factor authentication, things like that, do you put in place? And what physical controls do you actually put in place? Like the locking the laptop in place, making sure the door to the office is locked, making sure there's a security guard, and different things like that. Is everyone kind of getting an idea of how the physical and the cyber work together? Okay. So, all right. So we're going to kind of go over a different scenario here. So let's say that you're targeting someone's network, and it's a department, and they did a really good job making sure everything was secure. And so you try to get in. They have good firewalls in place. And let's say you try to run a phishing campaign, but they've had usability training recently and security training recently, and so they reported it right away. And so you're finding it really hard to breach into the network. What are some options that you might be able to do, consider the physical side of things, to be actually get in and break in?
Social engineering.
Social engineering? So what is social engineering?
Construction of communication with other people to be able to get them to do what they want.
Yeah, so phishing, as I mentioned before, is a type of social engineering. So how would you use social engineering? Social engineering is a tool, but what is something you can do to actually gain access to their network? What do you want to do on the physical side?
It's really easy to get into an office.
Yeah.
Like, if you pretend, I've done this before in my work when I walk up the bench, nobody will recognize you. You can just walk right in, like behind something.
Just act like you're
Yep,
in place.
that's tailgating. So there's a bunch of different options like that that you can use to try to break in and get in. We're going to go a little bit more in depth on it later. But the end goal is you either need access to their network or access to a computer, because that's the information you're going for. Either that or like a filing system. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay. Sweet. Let's see what my next slide is. Oh, yeah. So, as I mentioned, you guys are going to be the experts. You're going to have to figure out the balance, and you can't just focus on one thing. You're going to have to consider both the physical side of things and the cyber side of things. Also, just so you guys are aware and you don't get overwhelmed, you don't need to know how to perform everything. You don't need to be able to perform everything. You just need to be aware of the stuff's out there. Being able to demonstrate stuff is great. There are many presentations, however, that I have given to people that I put together in a couple of days or a week by reading stuff online. because this field is so broad. There's no way you guys are gonna be able to know everything unless you're like Sheldon Cooper. Okay? So don't become overwhelmed with the amount of knowledge is there. But you just need to remember, cyber versus physical, you need to find a balance between the two. So, you have two different file cabinets. One of them has a circular lock. You know, let's say that both of these actually have the same fire rating and everything like that. And then you have the file cabinet lock, and then you have the circular lock. What's some of the advantages and disadvantages of both of these?
Left side's less time to open.
This one?
Yep.
Yep. So, have you guys ever tried to do the circular locks and try to actually break into them? Yeah?
Yeah.
What was your experience with it?
It's really hard unless you have the tools necessary to, I don't know, listen in or feel the vibe, feel when it clicks or whatever. And I don't have the specialty for that. I just tried to Google, how do I break into this thing? And I wasn't able to do it, but I was with somebody who could, who was good enough at it to break.
Yeah. So the skill level of trying to break something like this versus trying to pick something like this is very, very different. They're also very, very different skills. And so trying to, as you guys are trying to learn stuff, I would start with picking. Generally speaking, these are the type of locks you're going to be faced with. There's a technique called raking that you should look up. It's very easy. They have a ton of techniques on YouTube. And basically, you take the torsion wrench, which is a L-shaped thing. You put it in, you apply a little bit of pressure, and you take a pick, and you go in, and you just rake back and forth a little bit until eventually it gives on you. And that's as easy for locks like that, generally speaking, it is to pick. Which it sounds like you guys are going to be doing physical security stuff in the future. So that should be a fun thing for you guys to try out and do. So when you're trying to walk through, also file cabinets, not everyone locks them either. Remember, path of least resistance. There was a physical pen test that I was doing once, and I walked into a department through the back door they did not have locked. And I walked into the file cabinet room, which they had set aside, and the biggest file cabinet was unlocked. Everyone was in the office, but no one was walking in that room. And I probably spent 30 minutes taking pictures of different people's files, having PII information in, social security numbers. There was a couple of bank account information, all this stuff. Not everyone locks their stuff, and so check. But yeah, that gives you a rough idea of different locks and different things. And you guys are going to be going RFID card cloning in the future, so I won't worry about that. Okay. So, what's different physical security vulnerabilities you guys want to look for?
Propped open doors.
Propped open doors.
Open windows.
Open windows.
Unmonitored areas.
Unmonitored areas. I mean, the file cabinet area that I talked about that I just did. It was unmonitored. There's another story I'll tell later that's a fun one.
How long have locks been there?
How long the locks have been there? Yep, that's another good one. Yep.
What the employees are wearing.
What the employees are wearing. So in social engineering, if you look like the other employees, it makes it a lot easier and a lot better. What else? Unlocked computers.
When people come in and out of the office.
When people come in and out of the office.
Lights are on and off.
Lights are on and off.
Name badges.
Name badges. Yep.
There's a receptionist.
If there's a receptionist or not, or a security guard or not. Yep. So what are some different techniques and different things you guys can do to exploit some of these? So let's say that all the employees are going in at once, and someone mentioned you just follow with them. What's that called? Tailgating. Okay. Trying to think what else I want to go over with you guys with this. Okay, so we talked about firewalls on the cyber side. Does anyone here know what a firewall was in the physical side? See, this is why I asked, because there's actually two different types of firewalls.
Physical.
Yep.
Be like a fence.
Nope, it's not a fence.
Like a card reader system or biometric access system?
Nope.
Like an actual wall that is meant to stop fires. So,
Yeah, no, it's actually, so a lot of these buildings here have these raised type ceilings, right? So they're the tiles and different things. A firewall is a wall that actually goes from the top to the bottom. And so there's no way to actually get past. That's what a firewall is. And so a lot of people, when they're doing construction and when they're trying to figure out these different systems and stuff, and they're making changes to the plans, don't consider that. And so it's very easy to pop up, go over, and go down if you're at night and you have night access. There was a department that I was targeting for physical security, and they had recently done a remodel, and physical security was scope, which was awesome because they had a lot of their secure systems and stuff behind locked doors with high performance locks, so extremely hard to pick. I have a technique that I want to try, but that's not it. Anyways, yeah. Oh, were you just stretching?
no, I'll ask after.
Okay. And we were trying to figure out how to actually get into the system because they actually did a good job. No matter what, even during the lunch hours, they had some secretary there to monitor access, and they actually asked questions if you were there and why you were there. And if you had to go into the back, they actually asked you what you were doing there and actually had someone watching you. And so they did a good job trying to deter and also analyze and delay intruders from being able to do anything. However, we went in at night, and what we found out was it was one of these tile ceilings, and they had moved their double doors about 15 feet earlier to try to put a couple of other people's offices behind the double doors to make it more secure. Doing that, they moved those two double doors away from the firewall that went all the way up. And it's really easy to have someone stand on your knees, prop them up, they're over, and then you guys are in and have full reign of the place. So firewalls, blueprints, things like that. That's very key and important. Yeah. Okay. Roof access. So how many of you guys have seen the ladders of restaurants and stuff that have that little cover thing so you can't climb the ladder? How many of you guys could actually climb that ladder? So, considering the roof access, also lots of buildings, I'm not sure about here in Utah, but where I grew up in California, they had very thick rain gutters that hypothetically might not actually be very hard to climb. And so you can gain roof access that way. And so there's different ways. There was another time we were doing a pen test, which it wasn't approved to do because we weren't allowed to come through the roof, but they had a skylight that we knew did not have an alarm on it, and a tree that was growing right next to the building. Right next to it. You wouldn't even have to jump. It was literally a step away, but it wasn't in scope, so we didn't do it. We made note of it in the report, but we actually didn't perform it ourselves. I'm just going to throw this up there and make this easier. Oh, yeah, this is a good one. Post-its with passwords out. How many people think people actually do that? Everyone does. It's so frustrating. I saw a hand in the back. Okay, I saw this one too, but yeah.
The whole roof access thing, it's not necessarily hard to dress like a construction worker and bring your own ladder.
Yeah. Yeah, you can dress as a construction worker and plant the ladder even if you want to come back later too. There's a lot of different options, and that's kind of combining social and physical. Okay, so how many of you guys know why that's up there?
That exploit that.
Yes, which I don't know if I actually brought mine or not. So one thing you can actually use, but I wouldn't recommend using because it's kind of hard, is a credit card. The other thing I've used before is a knife. Because a knife you can go in, as long as you know how the locking mechanism works, you can get it behind and you can trigger it. And I thought I brought that. Maybe I didn't. Oh my gosh. Okay. I'll look for it after this. But there's a lot of different things you can use to get into that gap and release the mechanism behind it. Why do you guys think there's a gap between the door and the floor?
Airflow.
I mean, some people might want it for airflow. Yeah.
There's a device that you can slide under for a button for that, especially these handles.
Yeah, especially those type of handles. So it's also very easy to custom make these devices where you basically get some wire from Home Depot, shape it how you want, put a loop on it, tie a rope to it that's on a slip knot. You stick it under the door, you get a pop-up, you get a lock on it, you pull the slip knot, that will latch onto that handle, you pull it, and you're in. Granted, this is something you normally want to do after hours because you don't actually want to get caught. But what are some ways that you guys can think of, not including lockpicking, that you might be able to get in or stay in after hours? Yeah.
I find that security controls by just asking someone to go to the
Yep.
Hey, can you open the door for me? Like, I don't even get an explanation. They're just like, oh, sure.
Yeah, humans are psychologically wired to actually help each other, generally speaking. So,
if you have access during the day and they let you in, then you can go in and just sit in the restroom while they close up.
so how many of you guys have seen that in a movie or TV show where someone hides in the bathroom and then waits till everyone leaves and then goes out and does their shenanigans? Yeah? That's a real thing, guys. It's not that hard to do. Yeah.
So two things. So one, make sure to finish on the hour, and then two, there's a YouTube channel dedicated to that, and it's pretty much amazing.
Oh.
So, how are you?
So, yeah. Doing things like that, real easy. Hide in the bathroom, hide in the cabinet. But as long as you can get access during the day, it's not that hard to find some place people don't generally visit. Stay there till overnight, and then you can do your stuff. If there's alarm doors, there's no reason why you can't potentially do your stuff and then just stay there until the morning. There's a lot of different options there. But then it goes back to where you want to check what other physical things they have. They might have cameras, they might have guards, they might have motion sensors. And this is where it comes into where you want to make sure you don't have defense in depth when it comes to physical security as well. So, before you go in, you want to prepare and test your tools out. What's some ideas of tools that you guys can use for physical security? Yeah, you can do a bump key. Get that ready. Just have an idea what type of key they use. Normally in places they'll use the same style key throughout, and then you just create a bump key. What's some other stuff you can set up? You've answered a lot. Anyone? I mean, I've mentioned some. I mean, yeah, it depends on if, damaging and different things like that are in physical scope. But there are some where they want you to go through extremes. So crowbar is very doable. Back corner?
I would say, like, I think the mix of components is always important.
Yeah, generally speaking, when people do physical security engagements, they do, at least my friends when they do it, they do at least 1 to 2 days on-site reconnaissance before even attempting physical security, and that's not including all the OSINT they do beforehand. Does anyone here know what OSINT is? So, open source intelligence gathering. Basically, you look at Facebook. If you look in Facebook and they have like, hey, it's a work outing on their Facebook, you can potentially get what their badge IDs look like. You can get, generally speaking, an idea of how they dress, different things like that. And sometimes if they got construction going on, some people put on Snapchat, Instagram, all this stuff, people. It's at your fingertips. Use it to exploit them when you have permission. So, on the other end, be careful. How many of you guys have posted pictures of you on vacation while on vacation? Yeah, your guys' houses I'd break into if I was a bad guy. Yeah.
When discussing with whoever you're going to be breaking into in a physical security sense, how detailed do you need to get with each thing to the point? Because you don't want to give away can I do this? Because that's good way to.
So generally speaking, you have one point of contact, and that one point of contact is supposed to understand that they are not supposed to share what you are going to be doing with anyone else in the company. And then you should go into as much detail as they need or they want you to go over with them, because they're your point of contact. Often when you're doing pen tests and different things like that, both cyber and physical, you will send them an update at the end of the day as well. Hey, I was able to breach this. Hey, I was able to walk in and do this. And so you give them a little bit of an update of where you were and how far you gotten. It's depending on the engagement as well. Sometimes you will break into a network and be like, hey, I was able to break in. Do you want me to keep going, or do you want me to back up and see what other avenues there are to get in as well? That is the difference between a good pen tester and a Walmart level pen tester. Because if you just hack them and pwn them and you walk away, that's not helping anyone. You get a fun time, you get paid, but why would they want you to come back? You want to find as much avenues of attack that you can, and you want to help them figure out ways to mitigate those type of ways as well. Does that make sense? Okay, I think I saw another hand up. Yep. Yeah, RFID cloning stuff, which I think you guys are doing in 2 weeks. That is a great tool to have. I think Bishop Fox has a nice little setup that you can actually get with it too. I think it's Bishop Fox, and you're nodding your head yes. So, what else? Have any of you guys heard of Hack 5?
All their stuff.
All their stuff is fantastic for it. Give me an option.
Like one of the things.
Yeah, one of the things.
Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi Pineapple. That is great for physical, social, and Wi-Fi pen test. It's fantastic. You can find rogue Wi-Fis. You can pretend to be other people's Wi-Fi so they connect, and you get their passwords, and you can actually man in the middle with that. That's a fantastic one. Any other ideas? How many of you guys have heard about a keylogger? Yeah? So the keylogger is normally a physical or software device that you either plug in between the keyboard and the computer, and you read in all the keystrokes. So you pick up usernames, passwords, any information they're typing in. Really good ones will sometimes actually take screenshots for you as they're doing stuff too. But I don't know where they actually make those anymore. I've only seen one of those once, and I think it was custom made. But it's fantastic. My favorite is actually Wi-Fi keyloggers, because most places have a guest Wi-Fi, and you can actually plug in the keylogger, and you can set it to email you once they fill up so much text. So you actually don't have to go retrieve it until the end of your engagement. And that's a fantastic one. Yeah.
One thing I noticed is, like, for example, like a lot of banks and stuff, when you go into say talk stuff, all the computers are in the offices and stuff, are facing them, and they're all exposed, like all the USB ports are exposed.
Yep. Yeah. So there is something called a rubber ducky. I would recommend investing in one if you want to do physical security and tinkering with it and playing with it. There are ways to set it up and practice doing it with a USB. It's a lot harder with a USB, guys. When I got my first rubber ducky, my life changed. So, there is also two things up here. Does everyone know what the M is over there? Metasploit. What about this one? I heard someone mutter something. It's PowerShell Empire. That is a fantastic tool. PowerShell Empire and rubber duckies together are a dream to work with as a pen tester. You can use this to set up a command and control center. You can have a rubber ducky, have a control script on it. You walk up to someone, you're chatting with them, you plug it in, you make sure they're distracted enough because the screen will pop up for about 3 seconds, and then you can actually hide the window after that. And then it will install an agent on their machine to call back, and you have now access to their machine. And PowerShell Empire has a bunch of built-in stuff you can use in for it too. So I was going to go through another thing with you guys, but I think I'm going to stop there. Oh, I almost forgot. Raspberry Pi. Why is that up there?
You can do so
Very
much.
versatile. It's very versatile.
Versatile, super small. What'd you say? What can't you do with one? You know, it's one of the awesome things you can do with one. You can make your own custom Dropbox that you can go in, and they don't take a lot of power. Put an external battery source with it, find an open network, plug it in, walk out, and you now have access to their internal network. It's great. I have breached some great departments that have fantastic security, but open conference rooms on their internal network, which is another thing you want to check for. Network jacks. I don't know if I had that on my earlier slide, which I can give you guys the slides after this too. But network jacks are fantastic things as a security person. You want to go in, you want to test them if they are live. You want to check because as a security person, you want to let people know your network jacks need to be set up on different VLANs, basically different virtual networks. And so it's like this lab should not be able to talk to that lab without going through an IDS or different monitoring tools and different things like that, so you can help secure your network. So I got 4 minutes left, so instead of going through the scenario that I was going to go through, questions on anything? Yeah.
What's your mindset if to help you keep calm, or I guess to just blend in?
So I'm worried I'm part sociopath. No, I'm kidding. So that is something. What? Oh, yes. So the question was, how do I remain calm when I'm doing physical security and walking through and, you know, doing that? I personally have never had any issue. And so when I was talking to other members of my team and other of my friends who do physical pen testing, I was actually surprised they have that issue. So I asked them, just remember, you're supposed to be there. Like, legitimately. Normally, when you're doing engagements, you will have notes with a get out of jail free card when you're doing physical security. And so if you get stopped by a security guard and they actually catch you, before you normally get put in handcuffs, you're going to want to pull that out and show it to them as a get out of jail free card and saying like, hey, I'm supposed to be here, you know, I'm doing this physical engagement, and then there's no reason for you to get in trouble. You're supposed to be there. You're there to help them. And that's the mindset a lot of them go into. I mean, yes, you're exploiting them all over the place, but you're doing it to help them. Also a trick, if you guys do physical security, use 2 get out of jail free cards. Have the legitimate one, also have a fake one, so you can give it to them, because with a get out of jail free card, normally they have someone they're supposed to call and confirm, which is normally your point of contact, that you are actually supposed to be there. So give it to them, and then if they don't call, that's a finding right there, because they actually didn't follow proper procedure. So have a fake get out of jail free card, and then have a real get out of jail free card. And that's a trick I learned recently. That was a clever one I had thought of. Yeah.
Could you just bring a copy, like an exact copy of your actual one?
So normally when I've done get out of jail free cards and stuff, it's kind of like a memo that you write and you kind of set up and then they sign and you have like the contact and everything on that. So basically you can fax, make a copy of that, change the contact information on it, and boom, you have a get out of jail free card. That's, they don't know. That, or just change the template. They normally don't have any idea what a get out of jail free card is. So there's, you know, maybe completely change it and just throw the company's logo on it and see if they even know what it is at all.
So don't use the Monopoly. Get out of here.
You could try it. Maybe print like the company's logo and have that card and hand it to them and see what happens. But yeah, any other questions? Sweet. I'll be around if you guys want to ask me anything else too. Like, I've been a security analyst for a while and everything. So anything you guys have, let me know. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you.